Who is 16172?
Jenny, 1672309.
Yes.
Wow.
Have another one of those.
Mike,
Yep.
Stephen, Susan. Okay, so just so people know, with this remote meeting, we'll be going into the remote format. For people that don't know, Jen from the town of Scituate will be taking our minutes, and thanks for being with us today, Jen. For any of the members that are on the board, please keep your cameras on so Jen can try to figure out who's talking. She's trying to take some notes. With that, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:01. We are under a bit of a time crunch to get one of our members out by a hard stop at 6 o'clock. So that's why we've sort of reformatted today's meeting. So I need to do a quick roll call on who is here. Uh, Brian Cronin,
Here.
Brian Kelly,
Here.
Howie Kretzenberg,
Here.
Rick Murray.
Yes.
Is David Sinkowski on? That's a negative. The chair, Dave Deneen, is here. Is David Haley on? Okay, and we know TJ is not going to be here. Stephen Moan. I thought I saw him.
Here.
There he is. Hey, Stephen. Mike Gibbons. No, Mike. Mike is out traveling. Kevin Norton. Not hearing him yet. Mike DeMeo.
Here.
Yeah, there he is. Hey, Mike. And Nick.
Here.
Thank you, Nick. Susan Harrison from the Select Board Liaison is also joining us. And then we have several other members from the community that are going to be listening in. I'd like to do the statement of commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion. The Scituate Waterways Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner even when there's a disagreement. We value the participation of our community, and we want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcomed and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to accept tonight's agenda.
Move to accept.
Second.
I have to do the roll call, and hopefully I'll get everybody's names right. Brian Cronin,
Aye.
Brian Kelly,
Yes.
Howie Kretzenberg,
Yes.
Rick Murray,
Yes.
Stephen Moan,
Yes.
and Dave Deneen, yes. Very good. We're going to go right into it. Just so everybody knows, there's been a lot of work and effort trying to come up with this 5-year plan. It started when we were tasked by the select board back in April to be able to put together some numbers anticipating what's going to be happening in the next several years. With that said, there's been many meetings and lots of discussions to try to make sure that we put together a solid plan. I'd like to really thank both Brian and Rick for their really, really strong work on this project. And with that said, we're going to start off with Brian Kelly to sort of bring us on this plan.
Fantastic. Okay.
As Brian's getting things set up, I hope everybody's had a chance to read some of the documentation that was sent out. There was a lot of information. And you're going to see a lot of numbers here. So we're going to go through it, and we've sort of created it into more of an executive brief so that it will be easier to follow instead of the Brian Kelly. I think it's been 12 revisions to the plan.
That is
I don't know, 6 months at it. So Brian, when you're ready.
So what are you seeing, everybody?
Town of Scituate unofficial document, Waterways Enterprise Fund.
Thank you. Hey, I'm having a problem bringing the other one up. Give me one more shot at it. Thank you. Sorry.
Howie, I always like the turtle behind you, and we are in our cold stun sea turtle season that just started last week. So turtles are starting to wash ashore on Cape Cod beaches. So we're now into turtle rescue mode as cold stun season for our endangered sea turtles is now going pretty heavy now for the next 6 weeks.
I just got back from the Turtle Hospital in West Palm Beach.
Oh,
I spent the day watching them operate on turtles.
wow. Very interesting. Okay, Brian, what do you think? You got it?
Love to tell you yes. One more shot. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
I think I have a conflict with my Excels here. Bear with me. I think you should see it now, right?
We are now seeing, yes, there we go. We're back to the original
Right.
unofficial document tab.
So this is an expanded document of what I sent out to everybody on or rather I sent it to Dave, who sent it out to everybody on the committee. The net here is what we're looking at is documentation that Nancy Holt has provided to me. It shows year-over-year financials with the estimated FY26 as well as proposed FY27. One of the key areas in here is debt service located on line 34, which I just highlighted for everybody. And the reason that's important will become evident in a moment. I've taken all these numbers and summarized it for people, so we're not going to have to deal with my expanded emails. So what I did was I taken total revenue, expenses, and compressed it all down. I'm applying an annual revenue increase of 1.5%, which is fairly conservative. An annual expense increase of 5%. Nancy's indicated to me 4 to 5 is the range, so I went on a top range. Effectively, what that means is that starting in FY27, 1.5% on the revenue side and 5% on the total operating expenses will be applied. So again, there's a lot of moving pieces on this. You can see on lines 21 through 23, the impacts of the dredging projects. Again, because this is rather expansive, I brought it down to show what really the impacts of all this is. So there's two sets of numbers that I'm using. Nancy's using something in the long-term debt referred to as, bear with me, Waterways Enterprise Debt Service Budget. However, that's not exactly long-term debt. Instead, that incorporates unissued but authorized debt as well. So I'm traveling this week, as most of you guys know. I've got a request into Nancy to meet next week to finalize this down. I'm thinking that my numbers, which could be wrong, will show a long-term debt. And if I guess I should probably bring it back to that again. We'll show a long-term debt number, which will be slightly lower than Nancy's. And
But slightly means how much lower?
probably about $100,000.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
it's not a huge number difference. So the reason why I say that, Brian, is I just want to make sure people don't think that there's wildly different numbers
Right.
coming that we're using versus there, which is why you'll see when we get into the memo and other stuff, we always talk about a range.
yeah,
So
you'll see
go
my
ahead.
numbers, which are pulled from a town document from a while back. One of the issues is the fact that we have a November bond that's floating, and therefore there's going to be some differences in the numbers. I think Susan Harrison might have a question. Dave, you want to handle that?
Susan, please go
Yeah.
ahead with your question.
I just have a question if why we're using two separate numbers, if we should just go with Nancy's numbers. to kind of cut to the chase,
Okay,
right?
for really good
I'm
reason.
just curious.
Hold on. Here's Nancy's numbers, starting in FY 27, all the way out through FY 37, it's the same number. Long-term debt cannot be the same number over a period of 15 years or 12 years, whatever that is. So she's using something, her numbers are being extremely conservative, and I really don't want to go down this black hole. What I'd like to do is try to get this presentation done. I know at the end of the day, we will use Nancy's numbers, but for anybody who's ever looked at debt service, to think that debt service would run from FY 26 all the way out to FY 37 to the same dollar amount when the town has a declining debt service in the way that they do everything. So for example, it's not straight line on every project we have. So it can't be the same number for 10 years. So I get what you're saying, Susan. At the end of the day, the board will probably defer to Nancy, as I will, but I believe these numbers are a little high. So I'm giving a best case and then a worst case scenario. I don't know if that answers your question, Susan.
No, it does. Thank you.
Okay. So coming back to this, once I take away existing debt service, which is that set of numbers there, add in Nancy's numbers for the dredging projects, I'll come up with a total surplus deficit, which I'm going to then go to another tab to show everybody.
Yep.
Same thing for Nancy's, same identical thing. I'm taking Nancy's water, not long-term debt again, waterways enterprise debt service budget. And I'm adding that to the appropriate dredging numbers. So to make it easy for everybody, best case numbers, if they're mine, once the dredging occurs, we go negative in FY 28. With Nancy's, we go negative in FY 28, 104,000. So it's about $75,000. The spread starts to happen out in future years because our existing debt either disappears, some of it, or it's declining. Whereas Nancy's using a straight line waterways enterprise debt service budget, not necessarily long-term debt. However, running both these scenarios shows that by my numbers, we should be looking at $100,000 in new revenue in FY 27, as well as another $100,000 in FY 29, in order to keep a positive surplus. One of the assumptions that, again, these are very conservative numbers. Normally, the surplus would drop down to retained earnings and be available for other uses. I'm zeroing out these retained earning numbers. So again, my numbers are conservative. I'm using that for the same on Nancy's. So for Nancy's in FY 27, we would have about $150,000 requirement, followed by 50,000 the following year, and I'm showing the roll up below it on both these numbers. And then FY 30, another 50, and all the way out. That's assuming no other projects, and with Nancy's a straight line debt service, long-term debt. So that being said, where do we get this money from? Whether it's my numbers up here, whether it's Nancy's numbers down there, it doesn't make a difference. We need to have some additional revenue. We only have 3 revenue levers that we can impact. So that being said, waterway use fee. Last time we had an increase on waterways use fee was, I believe, 2015 or 2016. And really it was the addition of mooring, the mooring community. Prior to that, it had only been marina based. So we have not had an increase since 2015. A $25 increase would bring us net new $35,000 in new revenue, et cetera, without running through the math here, everybody can see it. Slip increases. We've had a slip increase in 2022, 2025 would yield $81,000 in net new revenue. And finally, a mooring increase, a $1 increase, and we had an increase in 21, 22. That's 1 year, by the way, not 21 and 22. We increased it from 7 to 8, I believe it was, Stephen, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this would be going from 8 to 9. A $1 would
Correct.
yield out $13,000. So I have my theories on or ideas on how we could structure this, but really this is open for discussion at this point. I'll bring the numbers back up here again, so people can see the red numbers that are there about the revenue needs that would occur. So that being said, any questions?
If anybody has any questions, you don't need to raise your hand. Just reach them right out to Brian.
Yeah, so Brian, can we get back to the dredge numbers, the allocations for the dredging numbers for the harbor and the river?
Sure.
I just want to see how you based the 1.5 million for South River and the 3 million for Scituate Harbor. Is that based on cubic yards? How did you get those numbers?
So these are Nancy's numbers,
Okay, so yeah, so I'm saying
100%.
those numbers.
Right, so the South River dredge was put in at 1.5, 750 from the state, 370 from Marshfield, 375 from us.
Okay,
So that number is the 375. The harbor dredge, what was approved at town meeting was $3 million. I believe that was a year ago town meeting.
yeah,
50% would be ours at 1.5 million. We have available, authorized and unused, 65,000. Nancy, when I chatted with her, said we should use that first and run it out 5 years because it doesn't make a lot of sense to be paying a lot of interest on $65,000. So
Right.
that's why you see this one sitting out here all by itself.
right. So in the South River one at 1.5, that's going to come out of Marshall to give us 3 million in a perfect world. But the 3 million for Scituate Harbor, like, how many cubic yards is that based on? You know what I mean? Because that's the number that's the real number of dredging. You know what I mean?
Sure. So that's a number that Stephen came up with after speaking with, I believe, Woods Hole. Stephen, you want to correct me if I'm wrong, because that's the number that was put before the town meeting and was approved.
Okay.
Like we weren't sure what the cubic yards was going to be, and we had to put in some sort of number, and we didn't want it to be short. We think there's going to be about 20,000 cubic yards, which should come in around $2 million. But the way Scituate does it, you have to put in for the total amount. So we would have had to have put in for 2 million. We have it available for 3. In the end, we may only end up spending out of the Waterways Fund $1 million.
Right.
It could be as low as 750. But Nancy makes sure that we have to have the full amount because we can't. There's no guarantee on grants.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. But I'm saying if it's 2 million, and then we're looking at $1 million surplus here, which changes all of these numbers. So case in point, Green Harbor, we dredged just the Fed project alone was 60,000 cubic yards, and that was like 3.1 million. It's 60,000 cubic yards. That was, mind you, 2 years ago.
60,000.
Yeah. And then you also have to factor in that any mooring moves have to be done, which comes down to, does the mooring holder have to pay for the mooring move, or is the waterways or grant money going to pay for the moorings to be plucked out and plucked back? Because that gets to be over $100,000 as well. I know in some towns they made the actual mooring holder pay the fee because they were getting the benefit of more water. So those are things that are going to have to come to the table relatively quick to alert the mooring holders that if we do dredge, who's paying what freight.
Well, Mike, we're not going to be dredging in the mooring fields.
Okay.
If there is, there's a small amount.
Okay,
Most of this dredge is around the town pier, Cole
Okay.
Parkway Marina, Scituate Maritime Center, and then down to the back floats.
okay, Steve, I get that, but the typical barge is 140 feet long by 42 feet wide. So
Yep.
moorings are going to have to be moved, 100%.
I'm sure they are, but it's not the whole field.
I know, but there are going to be mooring moves that have to.
We're going to have to worry about that when the time comes. We can't, we don't even have the permits yet, Mike.
Okay. I'm just thinking down the road, Steve. I'm
Yep.
fine out. That's how my mind thinks.
It's a good thought, Mike.
Sure is.
But thank you.
Other questions? And if you're not on the board, more than welcome to chime in. Just name and address, please.
I'd like to say something, Dave.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if this is directed at Stephen because it's his budget or Brian, but I'm looking at the slip fees. And the slip fees look like they're dropping off 100 grand. They're going down. Is there any explanation on that, Brian? You're carrying 810. Yeah, the town is carrying 716. So you're $100,000 off. How do we explain that?
So, Stephen, I don't know if you want to chat, but
You can, Brian, you can explain that. It's the way the municipality does it, Howie.
so zero-based budgeting by the town, right? So revenues have to equal expenses, and it does. However, while the TA's budget showing slips dropping by 170,000 or so dollars, from 816 to 644, which really would be back in 2009 numbers if that event ever occurred. And we have a waiting list to fill, I believe, the Marina 2 times, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong. It's highly unlikely that would occur. Ergo, on my numbers, I'm taking a conservative number similar to last year, and running it at 810 versus 816. I use the TA's number, and that shows a drop down to retained earnings or a surplus this year of $165,000. And I believe that's most likely conservative. I believe that there's some additional room on our revenue sides on some of these items for them to be up, not significantly, but enough that it should be a very positive drop down to retained earnings for FY26.
So, I mean, it's off 170,000. Stephen's saying this is the way municipal accounting works. Then we must be making up for it somewhere else. Are you saying we're making up for it in retained earnings?
Yeah, exactly. If you look down, that's my number. They're showing $0 for this total surplus or deficit is the way government accounting works, right? Zero-based budgeting. So, and I don't mean to simplify things, but effectively that's what it is. So that's what they're showing. At the end of budget FY26, we're showing no surplus, no deficit. When I adjusted, obviously, for the slips, I'm showing a positive 165,000. And again, I believe that's going to be a little bit light.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I guess so. I understand where it's accounted for and it's zero-based accounting, but just looks awkward to me.
It does.
It does.
Can Nick ask a question?
It's one of those situations where it is what it is because Nancy's got to obey whatever municipality and Commonwealth requirements are. But it's a good example of one of those things that we know that line in the town's perspective is way too low. And so this is why it's important that we have, a range in our calculations, which we do. So
what gets me is using that particular category, Rick. It leads you to believe slip fees are down.
correct.
And what does
No,
that mean?
I agree with you.
And what does that mean? Oh, we must have to raise slip fees.
Right. No, I understand.
Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw numbers, costs for dredging two places. Are there any other costs in the budgets going out that we're including in here?
So when you say are there any other costs, I'm showing a 5% increase on operating expenses.
Yeah,
However, in terms of any other capital projects, the
yes,
answer to that is no, because the capital projects, um, really the next event would be the Maritime Center docks. The Unit 2 replacement outboard will be paid out of retained earnings, which I'm showing on the current screen. Um, so the Maritime Center dock upgrade, that will not occur until after we do our dredging. Our dredging now looks to be somewhere in this window.
Hmm.
When I was talking with Nancy, to project this in a short-term budget is probably not realistic. So no, I'm not showing that right now.
do we not have the state pier potential? And are we also not thinking about redoing the moorings?
Yeah, Nick is referring to the two capital improvement
Right,
projects that were just passed at special town meeting.
right. So
Um,
Nick, on those, if you look at your screen again,
Yep,
so pending, I have the word pending. It was approved actually at the November town meeting, so I need to change that. So $140,000 for the town pier rehabilitation. Another word should be added there. It's a study. That's not the cost to
not
repair
to do the
town
work. It
pier.
was a study, correct?
Right. So that has yet to be done so to project what that might cost is kind of hard. In conversations with Stephen, we don't know until Stephen's dive team gets down below and examines the steel. If the steel structure is damaged, then obviously it's going to be a lot more than if it's not. So at this point, we are not, there's no cost yet established for that. The harbor regrid is the next one, and that was also approved. That capital has already been pulled out of our really huge retained earnings of 445 plus our existing, which was in the low 200,000. So all that money is accounted for in all of our financial estimates.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
any other questions for Brian? Hearing none, I'd like to shift over and say first again, Brian, great work, a lot of work. Number two, I'd like to have Rick Murray talk a little bit about our 5-year fee plan to the select board.
All right, thank you. So I assume you all got the memo that we drafted up. I wrote the first version after long conversations with Brian. I drafted something up. Brian and I went back and forth a couple times, and that's what you have before you. I wanted to take the opportunity, or we wanted to take the opportunity to not just write a memo about this is what we think the fee should be, but I wanted to give the history and the philosophy
Yep.
so we have all in one spot, sort of documented for folks to show what we've done, why we've done it. And we specifically did not make any recommendations based on the conversation of tonight and our next meeting and so on, recommendations to the board, because the select board are the ultimate deciders on this. Um, so I don't want to wordsmith this baby, but I do think it's worth just going through a couple things, if I may. I'm hoping I'm showing you the right thing and not like pictures of my kids. Is that showing up as a Word memo?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I made a couple edits to the version that you have, which show up in things like this that are blue already. I've got track changes on. I've already made some minor edits on this. But this paragraph just shows that, we were asked to do this. So this is what it does. Gives a sort of high level summary of everything we've talked about. And it does have a executive summary up front And it basically says we've got this amount in retained earnings, 334. Maybe that number needs to change, whatever. Which we'll do. It tells us where the boatyard is, 30-year contract, it's fixed. Outlines some of the large projects that we're including in the calculations. But it also points out the harbor master building project, potential project is not included, given that's way up in the air, given our previous discussions on it. We talk about some savings, particularly with credit card fees. Electricity costs have been a big thing to discuss. We decided, subject to revision, just to build them into the overall 5-year fee plan, not as a specific line item due to the burden of accounting and so on. This is at the recommendation of the harbor master as well. But, electricity costs are covered by this plan. We've also studied 20 other coastal towns for mooring slips, electricity, other fees, include all that in here as an appendix. And then this here is a brief layout of what we're going to recommend. And you'll notice that there's not a lot in there. I mean, there's no dollar values in there, as I said earlier. And this verbatim that I've just put in blue is our final recommendation in the body of the narrative coming up. I did propose, instead of calling it a user fee or whatever, or a use fee, it's really a water access payment. And so I put that name out there because we should change the name if we're coming up with a whole new plan and a whole new approach. And I think water access is actually what that is for. Okay, so here's a little background. It talks about what ramps we use, and just so everybody understands what the lay of the land is. As Brian said, these are the main sources of revenue. Moorings, marina, the waterway use fee, which we said we might change the name of, and the boatyard contract. And there's a bunch of smaller stuff, which we don't discuss at length in this memo, but we do include them in our 5-year fee plan calculations. So that's in there as well. A little summary of when rates have changed in the past, and statement about fees have been increased on an as-needed basis, which has been a problem because this has resulted in fiscal challenges and sort of community surprise and so on and so forth. So arguing for coming up with a plan. Now, we then decided to put in what we think is a really important recommendation. And just as a reminder, the basic tenet behind it has been to, cover the costs and to keep fees attainable. So our number one recommendation is that basically we continue with this process, that the enterprise fund and the fees associated with successful management continue to focus on sound financial practices, first and foremost, as well as maintaining access to the waterways by all boaters with their respective financial capabilities. Because as we know, we've heard many times, people have said, people have said many times, heck, why don't you just raise the rates just to be up with like what Dauber's like or something like that? But that defeats the purpose of a town operated operations. Current position and forecast. These here are the current fees that we have, as Brian just showed. Maybe this figure needs to change, but what I've put in here is, this came from Brian, long-term debts increased to about that much per year. There's a range because there's differences in how you calculate it. Nancy has required to do a certain way. We have more, we put in, because we're able to, because we're unofficial, put in projects that we know are going to be there.
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
a quick one. No, that was up to FY25. That's a correct number. There's no discrepancy or disagreement. That's Nancy's number.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Nancy, the other number is way out in the future, 27 forward.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. The Nancy statement is somewhere else, somewhere. Yeah, it's down here. So high level summary is in Appendix A. So that would be a one of Brian's spreadsheets, but not all of them, but just that high-level summary spreadsheet if we wish to share that, which I think we probably should. What I say is analogous figures from the town. Brian, this does go out to FY 29 in this sentence. Um, and as I said, they're different for a reason, and it's actually fine. I think we don't want to get wrapped around the axle too much on that. So simply as a starting point, we built our forecast based on the following parameters, which are agnostic as to the cause of these parameters. It's just we got to start somewhere. And these are the exact figures that Brian just went over in his spreadsheet. 1.5 increase in revenue, blah, blah, blah. You can see it. And the recent increase in transients as well.
Hey, Rick, can I ask
Yeah.
when did we increase transient? I don't recall that. Or is that a proposal that hasn't been implemented, or was that implemented? $3 to $4 a foot?
It's proposed.
Oh, okay, that's a
Okay.
proposal.
So thank you.
Susan,
I
I
will.
actually
We should make
proposed
clear that
that.
that's a proposal that hasn't been approved.
That's
Okay.
Right.
right.
I proposed that, Susan.
And
Okay.
last month we brought it up and got it started. And we'll probably we'll have a vote at some point, probably December, as we tie this whole piece together.
I just corrected it on the fly.
Okay. I
The
think,
recent, the recent increase proposed by the harbor master for
okay,
transient. Thanks for catching that, Susan.
thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Fee comparison. Um, this is actually an important paragraph. We've examined practices, policies, and rates, so we didn't just look at numbers. And not all aspects of all towns are relevant to us because each town is very different for, a bunch of reasons. But nonetheless, alphabetical order. So if you're from Winthrop, don't take it personally to be listed last. 20 different towns, different aspects of things. Some of them don't have such rates, some do, so on and so forth. Credit card saving estimated. Brian gave me 12 grand out of that one. So we make a recommendation to support that movement that the harbor master is in the process of doing. We also, in this draft, we talk about the shoulder season. And boaters are charged an additional fee of whatever, we got to put that in there. But I wanted to really applaud the harbor master's efforts on the shoulder season and the idea. But I also think that rather than having a shoulder season, this is perhaps an opportunity and also helps explain some of the fee increases. Let's just change the season, right?
Mhm.
Something to consider, right?
Mhm.
Maybe we end up with two fee systems, a fee tier or something like that. But we should just call a spade, and there it is.
Do we have utilization data on that? Like who's using the shoulder season? Like how big are the boats and where?
Uh, I'm sure Steve does. This is only the first year of it. It's only half of
Yeah.
the first year, so it's not really catching on yet. But I'm sure Steve has that. Steve, can you answer that off the cuff?
They were between like I'd say 25 to 33 feet. You know, it wasn't anything outlandishly large. And the fee was $1 per foot per night plus electricity. So if you want to put that in there, you can.
No, it's interesting. The over 25. That's what I kind of saw when I was
I
walking
mean,
around down there, but
we had a couple of, we had one guy with a dinghy that brought it in, like a 13-footer or a 14-footer, and
yeah,
just charged everybody the same.
gotcha.
Thanks for that. I just edited on the fly. Okay, electricity use, a little explanation. I was surprised some people didn't know what electricity use was, so there it is. Um, Coming with Stephen and Brian, the total cost for electricity at both the marinas is about 8,000. Marine Park is more because of the de-icers. So not all the electricity is actually being used by boaters. I mean by individual boaters. It's the electricity bill.
We
And it's
do do
only,
we use de-icers at both marinas, so just so you know that. I
oh,
just think the marine park has bigger boats.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I will, I won't do that on the fly. I'll take a note.
So Stephen, actually, what Rick was saying was in season, and I worked extensively with Nancy over this. As you know, Stephen, you were very helpful during this, where we got every month's electrical bill for every meter and broke it all out. So for Cole Parkway, it was $3,500 and change. For the Maritime, it was 41 and change, so $7,700 total out of a total electrical expense for $35,748. Sorry, Rick, didn't mean to interrupt you. The de-icers themselves are rather costly. I believe that they came in somewhere to the tune of about $7,000.
All right, we'll fix this.
Just so you, and Brian, if you look at the Maritime Center, you came up with a greater cost for electricity, and there's actually less than half the boats at the Maritime Center than as compared to Cole Parkway.
Yeah, I pulled it right off. As a matter of fact,
No, I know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that I think the Maritime Center boats use more power
Okay.
based on their
Oh.
size.
I got you. I got you.
Right.
Yeah, because
So we'll fix this wording, but uh, the comparison to other towns show there's no consistent policy, and so on. And so we feel that the best approach to recover these costs is to build them into the fee structure from the start rather than add yet another fee and so on. And that's what this recommendation is. So the cost be recovered by being structurally built into the overall fee structure.
Is that the overall, can I ask a clarifying question? Is
Yeah.
that, would that be the overall fee structure for all boats or boats over, say, 25 feet, for example?
It depends what we
Okay.
recommend and what the board wants to do. Whatever the overall fee structure be, because if there is a tiered sizing, that could be covered by it or not. Yep.
Rick, as far as
Yeah.
Maritime Center, is that including the Maritime Center in the electrical bill as well with all the functions that are over there? Is that why it's higher than Cole Parkway?
no, we had
Oh,
that.
that's different.
We had that pulled out a couple of years, maybe four, probably 5 years ago.
Sure.
Mike, good question.
Okay.
So those are all the sort of the recommendations. And then I basically say, given all of that and the appendices, we've developed what we think is a thoughtful 5-year fee plan. Of course, I can say that because we haven't done it yet. We just got a lot of words on a paper. We got Brian's spreadsheet. We haven't made any recommendation, but here is how my idea we would, and this is exactly the same as would end up in the executive summary. What do we want to recommend? Do we want to also add a tiered system? Susan, just raised that for, certain reasons. And then I just added a sentence, we welcome the opportunity to discuss this with the select board further if so desired. But what do we want to, recommend? Actually, Brian and I did make recommendations about, we wanted to put out a straw man as to how to increase things. Once we figure out what we want to start with. But again, 5B is, also obviously up for discussion. All of this is up for discussion here. So I think what we should do is, if anybody disagrees with anything that's written, up here, acknowledging we need to put some numbers in there, here and there, but any major disagreements, we should figure that out. But assuming there's nothing huge, we should probably start, sorry about getting you guys car sick here.
Yep.
Look at Brian's spreadsheet, like if we increase something by this amount, it generates this, and what actually works. So that would be to set the fees for FY26. And then the second component is, how do we deal with increases? So,
Rick,
yes.
you go back to the waterway use fee. That's not the name of the fee. It's the waterways user maintenance fee, we already went
Thank
through
you.
this once because it used to be called the water use fee and people thought it was to use the water.
Yeah, right.
And it got very confusing. So we
Correct.
changed it to the waterways user maintenance fee.
Yep.
And then people really understood that it actually was to make certain improvements in the harbor itself or within the waterways
Okay, that's good. Well, I'm
enterprise
fine with
fund.
sticking with that. So I'll modify. I was talking about water access fee. I'm fine with waterway user maintenance fee, so we don't have to change it again if we don't want to, because that's a
Yeah,
better.
it's just we finally got people to understand it.
Yeah, that's good. So we'll just keep that.
Yeah, that actually makes good sense, Stephen. So, how does everybody want to? Has everybody had a? We know it's just trying to look at everything or read everything through a fire hose. There's a lot of information, and hopefully, people have had a chance to sort of take a look and try to understand. The biggest challenges that have been put forward to everybody is the fact that in the next several years, we've got some major projects that are coming up, and it's going to cost some money. And with the current budgets that we have and the retained earnings that we have, we are going to be short. So unfortunately, we're going to have to try to get up and generate additional revenues. And we've looked, and again, the financial group has really looked at a lot of different alternatives, guidance. As Rick had mentioned, that we've looked at over 20 different municipalities to try to help us come up with decision making in a process. With that stated, I think that the goals that were put or the points down in the bottom that gives us a basic idea of costs in order to hit those numbers make some sense. And I think that's where I think we should start, is looking at the recommendations on how to move this forward and to be able to attain those numbers. We should probably go to the last page, Rick, which is the recommendation 5B, and just start right from the beginning and go through these couple alternatives and get everybody's feedback.
So we could do that probably with Brian's Excel sheet. Brian, at the bottom of one of your spreadsheets, you had like if we increase um, the waterway maintenance fee, sorry,
Yes. Yeah.
by $25, that covers this. And, that might be a way because then we can sort of see where the sensitive knobs are.
Sure.
That is summary review shortfall. Yeah.
Okay. So just before I jump onto this, I know I got a couple of texts on some questions on debt service, just to be clear, because it's such a big component. What Rick referred to before about the debt service dropping, it was talking about from actuals, FY 24 to 25. We can see down here, right here, it dropped $155,000. And these are, column T is me. These are Nancy's numbers, not mine. Or these are official town numbers. So I got a text from someone asking, how did the debt service drop? It's because projects fell off. For example, the Maritime Center was paid off. It was a 20-year lease, so it dropped off, and that was great for us, right? And then if I could just go over to, this is also one of Nancy's documents. That's our total issued debt for all existing projects going all the way out to 2042. It goes out to 45, sorry. And it shows our debt and how it drops. We have some short-term borrowing, and then we did an additional note in November that'll be added in. So taking that, plus the short-term debt, this would replace that line item there. So it's a pretty fluid situation in terms of our debt numbers. If you take the official document and look at it, you would say our debt service really should be lower, Brian, but it's not, because what happened, we floated the bond in November. That's now being carried down here, which is in my numbers. And then Nancy's using, as I mentioned before, the enterprise debt service budget, which is straight line, as you can see here. And it's built in if we use some of the unissued debt. So anyway, point being, I just wanted to add, just clarify that because I got a couple texts from people asking me to do that. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right over to, where are we here? Which was Rick was looking for me. So, and I'm sorry to do this, but one last thing. If we take a look at our mooring numbers compared to other towns, we can see we're sitting there on the low end, plus towns like Hingham and others, Hull, have increases already built into forthcoming years. So we're sitting at $8 sitting there. Our marina costs, you can see we're kind of midpoint on our marinas. The discrepancy is some marinas are open 6 months, some marinas are open 7. Our current season is 5. We prorated out, we're just sitting right about at midpoint. So sharing those numbers very quickly, again. There we go.
There we
So
go.
if we increased, and again, I'm looking for new revenue required by year, if we increase our mooring fee every other year by $1, the impact would be 13,000 and change a year every other year going out to FY32. If we increase waterway use fee, and I'm showing it FY26, which I guess would be inaccurate because it would go into effect in 27, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we can't
All right,
impact
fix that.
FY26 numbers since the boats are out of the water, obviously. So these numbers would all shift out, obviously. However, to get the year for now, so that would yield $34,000 in change if we did it again in 29, and then finally at $81,000 if we did a straight slip increase in 28. If we did such as that and the shoulder season really didn't pick up much, a benefit to the slip community could be potentially extending the season for those folks to mirror some of the other towns that do 6-month seasons, not full 7, obviously. So the net for that would be, and once we take it, in terms of impacting the deficit that we're looking at in 28, using Nancy's numbers for all the dredging projects, assuming that they did hit in 28, would be, we would be turning back into a positive situation. This is just one of so many different variables, permutations, and possibilities that exist. I'm not recommending this. This was just when I was trying to spitball and come up with numbers. How do we close a shortfall? This was one of the ideas I came up with. I'm open to anything. I'm not making any decisions. This was just something that Rick asked me to share with everybody. So I'm going to turn it back to Rick or Dave.
I have a quick question on this proposal, or I guess specifically on any of the proposals. The questions to Stephen is cost the town any more to implement any of these? And I'm obviously just thinking about the extending the season for all patrons. Would that cost the town more?
I mean, if we kept our schedule the same as it is, where we don't have employees on before May 15th, and we don't have them, like full time working till midnight, if you had the employees there, you're going to have to raise the amount of money that you're paying them, unless you just say the seasonal employees don't start until May 15th and they end October 15th, but you can keep your boat in and it's open. Everything's open other than the bathrooms after 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I like that. That kind of splits personally, I like that. That splits the difference.
Yeah.
So do other towns do that, or do they supplement with additional staffing? And I'm not saying to stay till midnight. I'm just
No,
wondering
I
if
think
they have additional
I think
staffing.
a lot of places just go to their what you'd call a winter schedule. Um, you'd be on your winter schedule till May 15th, and then you'd start your winter schedule October 15th, just the way you do now. If you're going to Oak Bluffs, once I think right around Columbus Day, they're not there. In the afternoons or even during the week. And I don't think Greg Fraser has on seasonal staff in the summertime, in the wintertime either. I think they just go to the regular off-season schedule. And I'd recommend keeping the schedule the way it is today, where you go to the off-season schedule on the dates that we close today. Because you're just trying to get employees is hard.
Yeah, I can do that. We can do that. That can be, if people like that idea, that's easy to revise here.
And then my next question would be utilization. Do the marinas that have an extended season, do they see a difference in utilization with larger boats versus smaller boats? Just based on me looking at our marina.
No, I think
In
you're
the
just
off
going to get
season,
this.
I see larger boats. So would it be a benefit we're offering to everybody, but it's a real benefit to larger boats?
I think you're going to get the people that want to leave their boats in longer are just going to leave them in longer, and the people that don't. So right now, when we say it's October 15th, everybody's there, but they all leave basically around a week before October 15th, right up until October 15th. But if it was until October 31st or November 1st, you'd have the same people staying in late that stay in late now, that are there till October 15th.
I have a question. Stephen, didn't the people that are going to the shoulder season, didn't they have to book through Docwa?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if that be the case, to answer Susan's question, we ought to be able to do a study from Docwa,
Right.
which shows what days, what size boat, and how much revenue was derived per boat, right?
We already had that. We talked about it at the last meeting, Howie. The
Yeah,
amount
but
of the revenue.
no, I'm not talking total revenue. What she's
No, I'm
asking.
talking about the Dockwell revenue for the shoulder season.
Yeah, no, I get that. What Susan, I think, is asking is what size boats are taking advantage of the shoulder season? Am I
Yeah.
correct?
They're 25 to 30, like 33 feet is the average boat.
But Howie, the answer is yes, he's got that information that's built in through the DocWa app.
Yeah, so I think that would help Susan with her question as to here's what we saw
But
specifically.
I think Susan's question is, would the people still leave October 15th if the date was November 1st? And what I'm saying is, I think the people would just stay in until November 1st. It's just, nobody's in a rush to get the boat out.
Right.
And keep in mind,
They don't want it in their
we only
yard.
piloted this for this half season. We have no idea what would happen in the spring. And this was just an N of one right now. So
Mhm.
Hey, just as a heads up, everybody, Brian Kelly has to depart. Brian, thank you for your help, and we'll be talking with you soon on anything that comes up tonight.
Sure. Anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And one last point. I belong to Scituate Harbor Yacht Club. In the past 2 years, we've opened up early May. And what we found, or at least I've found, is that the 15th, when it opens, obviously there's a 2 in 7 chance it's going to be a weekend, 5 out of 7 weekdays. So what we've found is that the population really increases on the weekends before the 15th because people have an opportunity to obviously put their boats in at that point. So anyway, that's just a piece
that's
of
interesting.
That's correct, Brian. I mean, we see it in the springtime. On the weekends, we come, that's when they show up.
Got it. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry, I got to run. I had a prior commitment.
Stop screen sharing, please, on your way out.
No, gonna leave it like this, just for you.
Mr.
Adios, everybody.
Denny, Mr. Denny, have we come up with a way to
Thank you,
compensate
Brian.
Brian for this outstanding performance of numbers and consulting?
Yeah, Dave's on the phone. Troubleshooting something.
Okay, so
Sorry about that.
what? Oh, okay, Dave, go ahead.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
The question is sort of how to proceed. We
Okay.
have we have that sensitivity analysis as to if we raise it by this by that amount or this by that amount, what is that going to get us?
Right.
I don't think we're going to come up with a final answer to that tonight, which is good because we're
Mhm.
introducing to the public and introducing to ourselves this whole lay of the land. Options that I would see was we all start throwing numbers out right now and then have Brian run them and see what they come up with. Or on the other hand, we look at Brian's spreadsheet and we all kind of come up with on our own with what we think is appropriate. And we also compare to the neighbors. Brian just showed, for example, that we're on the low side for the moorings and we're in the middle for, I forget what it was, but the one of them. And we each have our own feelings about whether we don't mind being on the high side or we want to stay on the low side or we want to target the middle or what. We have our own thoughts on that, I'm sure. But we got to come up with a dollar figure and we need to in this memo. One thing that's definitely missing from the memo is if these sentence that says something like that, if this recommendation is implemented, it would generate the following amount of our retained earnings or whatever our index we want it to be, and show that it continues to be financially solvent. We have been financially solvent forever because we really closely manage it long before Brian and long before whoever it was before Brian's Brian. Um, but we definitely want to demonstrate. Remember, the motivation behind this was so we don't just sit around and say, oh crap, we're a little low this year. Let's increase fees. We want to come up with a plan. And
Yep.
so we need to somehow get to those numbers.
And again, what has been put out for everybody by some of the Excel spreadsheets and the draft for the memo for the town. The recommendation on the last page of 5B has got some basic ideas. At least it's a good starting point. But working with numbers like that will be able to get us to those numbers that we are going to need moving forward, so that we can still accomplish our dredging projects and all of our capital improvement projects while not being in the red. And that's one thing that we don't want to do. As Brian had mentioned, that there are some questions in terms of where we are financially between Brian's numbers and the town's numbers, but he and Nancy are going to try to be a little bit more. They'll be more conclusive about those fees. So the numbers that you see here are things that have been batted around for the last month or two, and they're a good starting point. So I'd love to get some of everybody else's take and go from there.
So David, are we going to plan that for the next waterways meeting? We come equipped that each one of us makes proposals in these various areas.
Yeah, our next Waterways Commission meeting will be on the 3rd. It'll be at the senior center. So our regularly scheduled time and location. So the important thing is that we have to try to make sure that we've got some ideas so that we can sort of make decisions at that meeting, because 2 weeks
Correct.
after that, we have to go with our memo to the select board, which I think is on December 16th. It's a Tuesday. So there's a lot going on here. And if people feel that we need to have another quick discussion right after the holiday before our next meeting, I'm not overly excited about it, but I do what the board feels is appropriate.
Well, there's one way to handle this between now and the 3rd. Each one of us submit to Brian what numbers we'd like to see fit in each box so that he can run the numbers in a spreadsheet. So we find out what the effect of that is.
like that.
So one one thing is if Brian, that last sheet, the last spreadsheet he had set up with the, what if he could set that up as a workbook and just sent out just that to the members so that they can noodle around with it and see how it changes the. I mean, I could build one myself, but not as elegant as Brian's. But I think if he had that and everybody had the same tool, that they could see what different increases would do.
Yep.
I just have one, comment that the marina patrons, the town marina patrons, and the mooring users are essentially getting hit twice with an increase. You get an increase on a slip fee, and you also get an increase on the waterways user fee. And I just think we need to be aware of that, and also that the waterways user fee is a regressive fee when it comes to somebody
Right.
with a 35-foot boat versus somebody with a 17-foot whaler.
Correct.
I feel that we're pretty aggressive. I am a moorings, just so I pay the user fee and the mooring fee, but I just think it's aggressive, in up at at FY 31 or something like that. We're at $200 added to it just seems like a lot. Anyway, that's just my thought. But I think if we had a tool that if Brian could put together a tool and just send out just that spreadsheet, so the waterways members, and then if the general public wanted to just noodle around and look at different things, because we have 3 levers to play with, but
Right.
the slip lever is certainly the biggest one.
Yes.
In the toolkit.
So
Thank you.
I got my hand up. I agree with you about it being regressive and the user fee. So I can imagine a scenario where perhaps that user fee does not change. But we have the change more on the per foot basis, because therefore then it's impacting people according to the size of their vessel, or not. That's one of the things we can discuss. So there are different ways to skin that cat. And I
Yeah, I mean,
thank
in
you for
Manchester
bringing
by
that
the
up.
Sea has a per foot user fee.
Yeah,
I think there might be some people on the call which would lose their mind when it comes to administrating that, but it can be administered. I'd find it might be a lot of work.
yeah,
It's interesting you say that, Brian, because when I was there for the implementation of the original user fee, and I remember Mark Patterson trying to implement by the foot, and administratively, it was a total nightmare. That's why we came up with the flat rate, which seemed to be more equitable against the rivers and the private marinas, as well as the slip patrons. So that's why it went that way, because we didn't want to spend $2 to collect a buck.
Right. Dave Sinkowski, welcome.
Hello there. I'm sorry for being a bit late. But further to Brian Cronin's point, making this in a little bit more equitable, and I think Rick was also echoing the same thing. There are a number of players here that are new, Susan, others. I just want to restate something for historical fact, because I think it's relevant. So when the new marina design arrived, we hired a marine architect, and he came out with the design. We were quite compressed to get it, and those who were there, to get it all signed off and done, so we didn't lose the funding. On one night, it was proposed to the group that the outside slips were not wide enough in the design by the architect, and they proposed to make them wider. The harbor master, and Steve Monk can correct me on this, said that by going to these wider slips, that it would eat up between 6 and 7 additional public slips by doing this. So the vote was taken, and it was passed, and I won't bore you with the details, but it was passed. So we did lose a number of slips, and I don't think it's wrong for those on the outside slips and the larger boats and the electricity and such, and that the rate might be different. So this might be something we could bring up at a future meeting.
So just so I understand what you're thinking about, and I understand you're just musing at this point. So boats over a certain size would have a different per foot rate.
Yes, so specific, yeah, yes, over, and
Or
when,
or
which,
a or and or a different user fee, but not 32 feet versus 33 feet versus 34 feet, but a user fee. Anybody with a boat over whatever has one user fee, less than that, a different user fee.
yeah, you could have maybe even a three-tiered system. You
Yeah,
know,
I got you.
Rick, I think it could be the outer slips pay a different rate because those are the more desirable slips anyways. That's the
Yeah.
ones everybody's asking for.
I, I will remind the board also that when the boat went down, I was the only one abstained from it because I had an outside slip and I lost my outside slip. So I have a particular interest. I think if you enjoy the outside slip, it's not wrong to ask for a higher fee. And if you don't want to pay it, I'd be glad to take your slip because I miss it.
Okay, we'll add that to the list for Brian to work on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think one of the towns, Dave, that's a good point that you bring out. I think one of the towns did have different rates for the slip locations. I can't remember right now which one it was
Yeah.
on
I
the
think
spreadsheet.
I think Barnstable has different rates for different areas.
Right, yes. Thank you, Stephen. I knew it was something, so it's not like we're creating something from scratch.
No,
Yeah, and the Herring River also has different rates with you have with and without electricity.
Right, thank you, David.
Yep, that's right, Dave. David, thank you. What else? Does anybody else have any more thoughts about this whole plan? I like Brian's thought about setting up a workbook so that everybody can go and sort of put some numbers together. Does everybody sort of like the direction that the financial group has put together with the layout of the memo, the education of the memo, the history, and why we're going into this detail to provide, especially since we have some new select board members, to understand a little bit more about what's actually happening with the financial services of our harbor. Okay, then that sounds like we've got a couple things here. We're going to reach out to Brian and talk about the fact about setting up a workbook so that we can put some numbers in on that one spreadsheet that he put in, and also we're going to use David's piece and talk about the outer slips and maybe coming up with a different pay rate. Does everybody agree to the fact that having the electricity costs built in to the fees is acceptable? I'm getting some nods. That's good.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Assuming, I do think that the board would be interested in the boats that are actually using it. Like, so if it wasn't in the fees of the 20-foot boats. That's just feedback I've heard, and people have called me about boats that are plugged into the AC all summer long. Those are the calls I get.
So let me
The
ask,
joy.
if I can ask a question of Steve Moan. So what Susan just said, which is totally fine, of course, is very different from just building in the rates into the building in the electricity in the overall rates. What she's suggesting, and she's hinting that people are interested in having, is actually monitored costs on a boat by boat basis.
we don't monitor. We do not have meters on the pedestals.
Right.
If you're going to do it, you should just implement. If you're going to use the electricity, then it's just this is how much it costs for a 30 amp plug, and this is how much it is for a 50 amp plug.
Now, if I have a slip though, I'm not necessarily using electricity at that slip. How do you know I'm using the electricity versus not using the electricity?
Well, if we walk down and your boat's plugged in, then we assume you're using electricity. So if you didn't pay for it, then maybe
Okay.
you get charged for it. And if we went down the next year and you didn't say you were using it, maybe you get fined for not telling us that you're going to be using electricity.
And would there be, to paraphrase Susan's other question from earlier, would there be increased costs to your operations
to walk down the docks and point out
And see
write
who's
down
using
who's
electricity or
using
not?
electricity?
Yeah,
No.
okay.
No, they
You
do
don't
that
have,
a couple
you can
times a
do it in the
day.
middle of the summer. You're just walking down the dock.
Yeah.
And saying slip 25 is got a cord plugged into the boat.
Okay, I'm just checking. I just wanted to,
I mean,
wanted the
it's
question.
not something you're going to do every day because the people that are using the power are plugged in every day.
Okay,
You mind if I ask a question here? It's Mike O'Neill, 33 Circuit Ave.
Go ahead, Mike.
Some of us have, larger boats, say 36 feet, and we're plugged in, but we don't use AC. We're just trickle charging our center console batteries. How do
It would still
you,
be this, Mike. It would have to be the same rate, whether you're using air conditioning or not. Then we can't. We don't have the capability of going down there and sitting trying to read meters. We don't even have the meters. It would cost too much to install them after the fact.
yeah, it doesn't seem fair to, people that aren't utilizing a lot of electricity for, AC running constantly. I mean,
Yeah,
my boat's pretty efficient, so I would be penalized because of the length of my boat, not necessarily the amount of electricity I'm using.
but
Right.
to your point, the people that have a 20-foot center console that have no battery charger or a 25-foot day boat that don't plug in or any of the other boats, they're paying for electricity now that they're not using in their rate.
yeah, so, and actually, Mike, I think, if I'm understanding this right, Harbor Master Moan just said a few minutes ago, we could charge X amount for, I forget the amp, but a low amp and a little different for a higher amp. So at least you're not being charged per foot per amp per yellow cord. You're just being charged a flat rate because you have a cord running to your boat.
I see. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I just wanted to raise that point that it's not necessarily
Yep.
a usage by length, but really by uh, the systems that are being powered by electricity. So,
Yeah.
Yep. That's good, Mike. Thanks for that input. We appreciate that. Any other thoughts?
So it would be you're essentially being charged for just plugging in as a flat rate of whatever it would be.
If you have a cord going into a pedestal, we can lift up the pedestal, identify that it's a 30 amp cord or a 50 amp cord.
Yeah.
And we'd ask it that, you'd be billed accordingly.
Yeah.
And it would be for the year.
Yeah.
But
Not not a monthly charge. It's just a flat rate for the year.
Stephen, what would you guess? How would you handle like the larger boats? Most of them have two cords, which I don't even know how that works. But it's not.
That would be the same as a 50.
Okay.
Okay, so boats are wired two different ways. They're wired 2-pole 50. Some are wired a single pole 30 amp or two single pole 30 amps. It just depends on how they're wired. But essentially, the 230 amps is a 50.
Brad White, welcome. Hello, Brad. He's trying. Oh, we'll come back to Brad. Anybody else have any other questions or thoughts regarding this process? What did everybody feel? Was everybody somewhat satisfied with the information that was presented to you with the various spreadsheets and the memo? Did it all seem to make sense? Are you happy with the direction that we've been trying to go?
I thought so.
Howie?
I think so. I think this is very comprehensive. I'm just thinking about getting prepared with some numbers from me for the next meeting on December 3rd so we can talk turkey.
Yep, we have sometimes getting busy. David?
No, I thought it was handled well. Thank you.
Okay.
Brad's back. Can you hear me?
Hey, Brad, go ahead.
Hi.
Name, address, please.
Hi, Brad White, 149 Old Main Street, Marshfield Hills. Stephen, question for you. Is the proposal to charge for 130 amp or 150 amp or just one cord?
Brad, I did not make any proposal. All I said was, if the electricity is getting charged for, the best way to charge for it is if you have a 30 amp cord, you're probably using less than if you have a 50 or two 30 amp cords. So you should be charged more for a 50 amp or two 30s than you should be if it's just a single 30.
Okay, all right. I understand.
I did not propose anything.
No, it's okay. I understand it now. And the other question is, how much does it cost the town per cord, per 30 amp cord? Do you have any intel on that? I'm just curious.
No idea.
To Mike's point earlier, somebody's cranking out 4 air conditioners 24 hours a day versus maybe a mini charger on a center console. There is a significant difference. I mean, I travel a lot on the boat, and I see that in many different ports where there are constant air conditioners being used, and that is a significant consumption rate versus one cord. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Mike DeMeo, any other thoughts about our direction?
Yeah, and I talked about this before with the 5-year scale, and I'll make some good notes to Brian. I took notes today.
Okay.
Based on the electricity on boats, yeah, maybe boats that do use it should be charged a small fee, but I think the backdrop could be if somebody's being charged a lot of money for a trickle charge a boat, and they do have AC, if they're being charged a lot of money, they're probably going to turn the AC on because they're already being charged for it versus them not going to do that on any other given day, which is going to raise the town's rates to pay that. And also, could add a lot of power onto the local grids, you know what I mean? Especially in the summertime, you know what I mean? So I think any electrical fees should be on a small 5-year scale as well with the moorings and the harbor use fee. You know what I mean? I don't think it should be outrageous, but yeah, the town should at least cover their costs. I don't think we should be making money off the electrical grid and charging boaters excess amount of money. You know what I mean? It has to be, pretty fair to people. That's all. Like everything.
Do you like Stephen's approach of a one-time fee for the season?
It's a good approach, but the problem is there's going to have to be a second approach if that person's not in their slip and a guy rents it on Dockwalk, then all of a sudden he plugs in, he should be paying as well. You know, like personally, I think the transient slip should go higher. Like if the mooring holders and the slip fees are flipping all these bills, as Brian Cronin said, like the people that are coming here, the transient, should be paying them more money to come to Scituate Harbor to use our facilities.
Mike,
talked about raising the fees for the commercial guys from $3 to $4 with no discussion and no debate, which I think should come back to the table anyway. I think it's kind of high for those guys personally, but as far as the recreational stuff and the seasonal stuff, that should be looked at as well. But yes, the electrical should be some fee, but I don't think it should be astronomical.
Mike, just to let you know, we do charge the transients $10 a night for a 30 amp cord and $15 a night for a 50 amp cord every night. And we charge them.
I think you should double it.
You're going to start losing people coming into Scituate.
Yeah, well,
they'll go to other places, and then that's going to hurt the businessmen, the people downtown.
Yep.
And that's where it really affects us.
If you go,
I think that probably needs more study.
Yankees, and
the other part, Mike,
$50 a park, you're going to pay.
Mike, I was the one who recommended going from $3 a foot to $4 a foot for the transients.
Okay.
Okay. Also, the fishermen at the town pier came to me and recommended that we raise the commercial rate for the transients.
For transit, yeah, okay.
For transient commercial boats. Yep. From $50 a night to $100 a night.
Okay.
based on what they pay when they go down to Sandwich Boat Basin and tie up.
Okay.
And they said that the $100 a night was a deal.
$100 a night was a steal because they're paying the regular transient rate when they go down to Sandwich Boat Basin, whether it's the winter or the summer.
But that's a pretty much a no-brainer for next month. Anything else, Mike DeMeo?
That's it.
Thank you. Nick, any thoughts?
No, I thought it was wonderful information that was presented and a lot of homework. Thanks to all who did it.
Very good. Brian Cronin, did you have anything else to add?
Thanks, Nick.
No, just that we need probably another spreadsheet with another 50 tabs, but no, thanks to Brian and Rick and their hard work on putting this all together.
Very good.
Thanks,
Stephen,
Brian.
did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, I did not come up with any of this other than the transient rate going from $3 to $4 and the transient rate at the town pier. This is you guys, not me.
Very good. But
Well,
you
let's
were
just
very
be clear,
helpful when
Steve.
we needed your information. So thank you for being helpful.
Your
Yeah,
idea
Steve.
is not mine.
Stephen, we understand that.
Stephen, oh,
But,
I-
you
I
go
will
ahead,
say one
Susan.
thing, that select board is probably going to ask you what you think about this. So, that will be a good thing for you to think about for your homework.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the select board also asked us and we agreed, and we also think it's good to come up with a 5-year plan so we don't just jack prices around all over the place.
Yeah.
So, and we advise the select board. So, I understand, Steve, when you say that, this is coming from the committees and not you fully, but this is not, waterways just running off on their own. This is part of a conversation we had with the select board, and the select board and the waterways are working together on this.
And I would say that the waterways would be very excited to hear any ideas that you do have, Stephen, on how to, if we're coming at it at a different angle, you as a professional, some guidance would certainly be appreciated.
Yep. Very good. Okay. We've got some homework to do, and we'll try to get this information out to everybody. I hope by the weekend. So, thank you for all this hard work. So we're getting there. Third quarter. I'd like to move on with the agenda if that's acceptable to everybody. I'd like to go to item 5, acceptance of the meeting of October 15th. I hope everybody's had a chance to review them. I did get some comments from Brian Kelly, which I will incorporate, and it's just sort of putting a few more dots in crossing T's, and just putting a little bit more details in the financial report, specifically of some of the funding that was approved at special town meeting. It was a little bit off, and Brian just sort of put it in a correct format so that everybody will understand that. So did anybody else have any comments regarding the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I need to, any more discussion? If not, I have to do the roll. Brian Cronin,
All right.
David Sinkowski,
He's muted.
David,
Sorry, aye.
thank you. Howie,
Yes.
thank you. Rick Murray,
Yes.
Stephen Moan,
Sure.
and Dave Deneen, yes. That passes. Thank you, guys. There's been no correspondence. Chairman's report, town meeting, the 3 articles that were presented were passed through a bunch of they took a bunch of the articles and lumped them all together where it didn't seem there were going to be any issues, and there weren't. So the 3 articles dealt with the new antenna for the building, moving some money into the pension fund, and the enterprise capitalization, which is a new state mandated requirement of $10,000. It really depends on the a percentage of our fees for the enterprise account. Stephen, how's about Harbor Master report, please?
So, Harbor Master report. Shoulder season, it was pretty successful. We had about, I think, around 20 boats. I don't have the exact figure in front of me anymore of what we brought in, but I think it was around $10,000. Anybody have any questions on the shoulder season?
And shoulder season is actually ending this Saturday, correct?
Correct.
I thought it was a good program. It looked like there were some boats that utilized it, and it gives us some extra money, and always challenging this time of year. And that was one of the questions when we were going into it on how it was going to work. We had a couple big storms, and then you get the normal people that at Labor Day they're pulling boats out. So it's just nice to be able to give the patrons a little bit more flexibility to enjoy sometimes a beautiful fall season. So I think it was a success. Any thoughts or comments about shoulder season? Hearing none. Stephen, how's about dredge update, please?
Dredge update. The harbor, Army Corps of Engineers is not working right now. So we do not, since we're waiting on the Corps, we do not have any update from the Corps.
Yep.
The river. I got a call from Seaport Economic Council. They approved the funding for the dredge and asked the town of Scituate to take the lead on the contract, which I did. I reached out to Mike DeMeo. The town of Marshfield approved the MBTA community, and it's my understanding that they've received their funding from this Seaport Economic Council as well. So I submitted the contract and identified the areas as the North River, and then the entrance to the Heron River, to the confluence of the North-South River, and then down the South River. And those are the areas that we're going to be looking at for design, permitting, and engineering. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I'm working on the RFP. I should have that done by next week. And then both towns will have to take a look at the RFP to make sure they're in agreement with it through my office and Steve's office. Then we'll get that out to bid, hopefully before the end of December. And then we can start working with that consultant to get the permits and engineering for the South River. We already did a preliminary hydrographic survey of Area A, which is the confluence entrance of the North and South River down towards Truance Island. So we have that data from May. And then we're going to look the hydrographic survey to the entrance of the Herring River, which is now the new entrance to the Herring River versus the old entrance that goes in the back of the spit. I think historically we should have that data in our back pocket as well. Identify areas of shoaling in portions of the North River, which could convolute some permits because it would be new dredging. So those are things we'll have to look at once we get the survey. Dredging may or may not happen in those areas, or potentially maybe some of the nav aids get moved. But obviously the main part is the entrance of the South River going down toward the C Street Bridge, down to the original boat ramp. And we had those calculations in dredge volumes from 2018, 2018. So we'll see where those are at. Talking with Stephen, we're probably not going to put the hydrographic survey into the RFP because the consultant's just going to step on it and charge us more money. We already have a local hydrographic survey company that we can hire directly to probably save some funds on both sides of the river. So that's kind of where we're at with the rivers.
Stephen.
Yep.
Quick question. This is the first time I remember doing or mapping the entrance of the Herring River. That's great news.
We're not mapping. We're not going into we're going to the entrance of the Heron River. We're in the North River. We're just looking at the entrance of the,
okay.
Right up to where the Heron River starts.
Because
Yeah.
I know that the owners of the marina down there are quite concerned that this is not on the 5-year plan and that, so there is no interest in clearing the entrance. It's not gonna be passable at low tide.
No.
I just want to make sure that Susan hears this because I don't know if she's still here, because I know they plan on coming to the board to ask for help.
Thank you, Dave, for mentioning that.
Yep. Thank
I'm
you.
not sure if there's a sandbar that's in the North River that impedes you from getting into the Herring River, and that might be included, Dave. I think you need to look at a chart and see and see where the dredge area stops.
Right. I agree because it depends on where you draw the line, and maybe Steve can help us offline because one could argue that that hump that blocks the access to the Herring River is really part of the North River. It depends on where you draw the line.
Yeah, I think you need to look at a chart.
Yeah.
Very good. Stephen, anything else on dredge?
Nope, that's all.
Anything, any unforeseen expenses?
Nope, nothing.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the harbor master? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Marketing committee, TJ is away. Nothing to report. Quiet time for us. Liaison reports. I have not attended the last Economic Development Commission meeting, so I have no report there. I think you got a couple really good updates from the Cole Parkway Redevelopment Committee meetings from Mike the last 2 months on what they're trying to accomplish. And if you're still curious about what's happening there, you can go online to the town website and sort of see some of the drawings that have been mentioned when they met with the select board, I think last month. Very interesting, and so please take a look. Shellfish Advisory, anything interesting, Mike? I know you got some work done.
Yeah, so we did the reseeding of the North and South Rivers on October 24th. They were 1/2-inch quahogs that were grown at the Island Creek Lab in Duxbury.
Nice.
Skip Bennett, he was very good to the towns. I've already requested 100,000 quahogs for next year. I did go digging on the first day in the South River in the areas that we did plant last year, and there were a lot of seedlings that were in that area. So it's clear that they are reproducing in the areas that we seeded last year.
Oh.
So if you are out there digging and you see a bunch of 1/2-inch ones, just cover them back up and don't take them, because those will take about 1.5 years to be legal size. The water quality in the river has been good. We're actually going back out testing Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, and the shellfish beds are open. And I've just ordered today the 2026 recreational shellfish permits from the vendor. I just have to pick the color. So other than that, and those permits will be available at the Marshall Harmass office first week in December, and also at Scituate Town Hall. So
Nice.
it'll be out early.
That's great. I'd like to try to have Waterways or the Harbor Master Department send a letter of thanks to Island Creek Oysters for their donation. I think it's really important, the partnership.
It wasn't a straight donation, Dave. It cost us $3,000, which I thought was a fair deal.
Yep.
And I did thank him up and down in an email, which I can share with you and the board. So they were great to work with.
He's a good guy, and he really cares about our local environment. So you're good with that?
Hey, just Mike, do you have a updated map of the expanded area in the South River?
Yeah, so the expanded area, which is basically that lime greenhouse south, that's anticipated to open February 1st.
Okay, so it hasn't opened yet. Okay.
We got to do a couple. You need 13 to 15 runs, and each run December, January, that should be 13, 14, and 15. So there's been no failures or bad water quality, so that area should open February 1st.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Which is kind of weird because you go to the west and that area is open. So like, how could it be good on one side, not the inside? Fisheries agreed, but under the standards of marine fisheries, you have to have 15 runs of good quality under your belt. So we're tracking.
Okay, awesome.
probably that equates to 8 to 10 acres of more shellfish beds, which on face doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually is. So that area next year, we're going to really jumpstart that with the 100,000 cohogs in that area, so people can walk out to get clams rather than kayak across and paddleboard in November and December.
I'll go back to what Brian's saying. Is there some type of a map for users when they get their licenses to be able to see where they can go?
Yeah, we do give them a map. It's not the best map. We can work with the IT and try to get better maps made for people to get out there. But
Yeah, there's a map online too on the shellfish
yeah,
site as well.
Yeah, the maps are there. They're not great. They're not Google Maps, but we can probably work on something a little better. Maybe update the websites with better maps and color code them a little bit. But I'll get that done.
And then from a marketing standpoint, I think what we'll do with our marketing committee is try to put together something that we can set on. Or Mike, have you already sent something out about the reseeding for the year to any of the local press?
Yeah, that was on the Marshall and Harbor Master Facebook page, and also Mike Bierce also tagged it on the Scituate Harbor Master page.
Great.
That's been pushed out. Both administrators were aware of it, and they pushed it down to the select board, so it was highly publicized. It was not a really big event. It took us no more than 2 hours. No one got dirty for the first time in years. So I think this is the way to go. They come clean from the lab. They're not contaminated, so it doesn't trigger any closures or meat testing. They're grown locally. They look great, and like I said, Island Creek has been awesome to deal with, and it was pretty seamless.
I probably saw it and forgot, but that's normal for me. But that's great. Things like that, we need to make sure that we put out good messages, because it is such an important part of what we do on these coastal towns. So thanks again for all your efforts. I know you're doing great with it.
And we're also looking to do a shellfish expo day with the North South River Watershed at the end of November. I think it's just after Thanksgiving. It strikes me, but I would do an expo with them as well.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any new business they want to throw out at this time? Okay, hearing none. Old business. We had talked about the possibility of writing another letter for the buoy modernization. Are we still trying to do something like that? I know we had talked about it.
Yeah.
We're gonna let it go, Rick.
The project's on indefinite hold, canceled.
Okay.
So it's good we have one ready to go, sort of, somewhat, if it rears its ugly head again, but now that's completely off the table.
Yeah,
Very good.
That's gonna be in the distant future, I'm told, from the higher. But I wouldn't worry about that for the next at least 10, 15 years.
That's great. That's good news. We do not have a police department update. They're not here. We have no lobsterman or fisherman update. Does anybody that's participating in our meeting have any comments or questions? Well, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Brian Cronin,
Aye.
Brian David Sinkowski,
Aye.
Howie Kretzenberg. Is he still here?
Yes, I'm here.
There he is. Hey, thanks, Howie.
Howie Kreutzberg is still here.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm never going to get it right. He's going to kill me. Mr. Murray.
Mr. Murrayberg is here.
Okay, Stephen Moan.
Aye.
Thank you, Stephen. And Dave Deneen, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you so much for all the efforts, and I appreciate everybody's patience trying to get this set up. Also, a big thanks to Jennifer from the town as our recording secretary. Really appreciate it, Jen.
Thank you.
And otherwise, everybody else that joined, we really appreciate you jumping on. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, reach out to Harbor Master Moan to try to keep things moving. So we'll talk to everybody in a few weeks. If we don't hear from you, happy Thanksgiving to you and your families. And
Thank you, David.
That's it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.